Hey everyone, welcome back. This will be video number 4 on the 39 Plymouth Convertible. Continuing on digging out more rust and more repairs and everything else. So the owner was here yesterday, took a look at it, happy with the progress and just wants to carry on, keep going. So I'll just show you what I found and what we're working on now. So far, that's the pile of crap that I've taken out. That piece over there is the toe board for the rumble seat. I'm going to clean it up, see if it's going to be usable. If not, we might have to make a new one for it. So, in the meantime, what I'm working on is trying to get the B pillars and these quarters straightened out to where they're supposed to be. I've got a brace welded in across from the bottom here to the bottom of that B pillar just to hold it in place. These rockers ended up being in way worse condition than I thought. This one has screwed on patch panels. There's rust through. It's rusted through up here. And into the corners here is just a disaster. There's probably close to 3/4 of an inch of Bondo here in places and screwed together pieces. So just take you over to the other side. I was thinking all I was going to have to do was a little repair on the B pillar at the bottom and then start replacing the quarter here. Yeah, so this is the piece that I thought I was going to have to replace, and this is the brace that holds the B pillar to the subframe on the body, and it's pretty much pooched. Everything was rusted out behind it. The inner rocker virtually gone. This is the rocker panel here. Pretty heavy piece, but it was packed completely full of silt. So we're starting to think maybe this car was in a flood or something and everything filled up with silt, and that's why it's rusty. So the profile on the rocker, it's pretty small actually. As you can see, the inner and the outer. The inner's on the right. It's kind of a bitch to build because it is so small. So what I've done, I had to cut the whole thing off right up to the front here. This part is good and solid on it. And I left this lip that welds in to the subframe. So I took and I figured out the inside measurements of the two bends. And it's 1 9/16, 1 9/16, and then I left a 7/8 inch lip on the bottom to just make it a little bit easier for me to put my inner on. Now, I'm still waiting for parts for my shrinker. The ones that I ordered ended up not being right. They won't fit my shrinker, so they're going back today. And then Vivor Canada actually had a shrinker stretcher combo on sale for $144, so I just ordered that. What it is it's one tool with 2 different sets of jaws. So, but even with that, this piece will not fit into the shrinker stretcher to shrink the backside to get the curve in it. So what I've done is I cut reliefs every 4 inches all the way around. I marked the curve of the rocker on my piece of I-beam. I've got this all clamped down with the proper curve in it. I'm now going to tack weld these on the points, and then I can TIG weld them all shut. And then I probably have to planish it a bit to get it to so that it's nice and straight. So anyhow, we'll carry on with this. I'll get this piece tacked together, and then I can show you what I'm working with. I'll just show you how I'm going about this here. I'm making sure that my rocker is staying flat with my channel iron here, and I'm just, because it tends to like to rock up a little bit, I'm using a clamp between each piece where it gets a little tack weld, and I'm just putting in the tack welds. And then for the lower part of the rocker here, I'm clamping on my piece of copper as a backer so that it's not burning through. It stops you from blowing out there. I'm just doing that all the way across here. Get all of the pieces tack welded, and then I can TIG it. Getting a little bit too much stuff. Get this one here. Okay, so that's what I'm doing. I'll just carry on going across this piece. Okay, I'm getting these welded up here. I got the lower side done, just working on the upper side. And what I'm doing, I'm using 035 MIG welding wire as a filler rod. 1/16 is a little too heavy. It takes a little bit too much heat to get it to melt in as a filler rod. I find that the 035 works really well, other than the curve in it. And I guess a guy's got to be grounded for it to work at all. I'm using about 55 amps. It's working pretty good. I don't have a foot pedal as it buggered up on this east wood. Oh, little pinhole. There we go. That's the first one done. I'll carry on. I only got 7 more to go here, so. Okay, I've got the 8 splits there welded up. Just going to dress them up with the zip disc on the angle grinder. Get them cleaned up. I'll sand it. I'm going to have to planish them because what's happened is by welding them up, they've shrunk and it's put more curve in than I need. So I'll have to planish each one of them out a little bit just to get rid of some of the curve that it's put into the rocker here. Okay, I just wanted to show you guys here how my curve, by doing those 8 welds to get the curve in it, when I first did the cut and had it clamped down, it fit perfectly on the curve of the subframe here. And if I hold it up here now next to this, you can see that, let me get it in the right spot, tough to do with one hand. It's actually gained about 3/8 of an inch of extra curve in it just from those 8 welds. So what I'm going to have to do now is I'm going to have to planish each of these, just beat them down to stretch them back out to get the curve back so that it fits the side of the car here. So that's one of the issues with doing it this way as opposed to using the shrinker. Okay, I finally got this planished so that my curve is identical. Let me just hold it in place here if I can, one-handed and my offhand. So as you can see, I've got Nice even gap all the way along now. And I figured I'd be able to do that with a few whacks of my little ball peen hammer. This one, well, quite a few whacks didn't do it. So what I ended up doing was using my air hammer, and I made a planishing die just out of an old chisel, and I put a 1/4 inch disc on that I polished up a bit, and it still took pretty close to 45 minutes to get the curve out of this that I needed. The issue I have now is to make this the same as the other one, I have to break a piece that will get plug welded to the bottom, comes up, it'll get welded, a continuous weld across the curve, and then it sticks up about 1 inch, and that will get welded to what's left of the rocker here. So I'm just a little worried that when I do this full weld that I'm going to put a bunch of curve back in it, and if I do that, there's no way for me to get it out of there. So I'm a little bit at a loss here what to do. If I continue to take a little bit more curve out of it with the hope that it's not going to, that way if it does shrink and curve some more, it'll shrink to what I need. So I'm going to take a long hard look at this, maybe planish this out a little bit more, and just see what we end up with here. So anyhow, once I get this figured out, I'll bring you back and show you what I've done. We've got the second piece of the rocker panel done here. I got the outside piece. I took another piece of 18 gauge and I broke it at 1 1/4 inches to come out to tie into the bottom edge of the rocker panel, and it'll get plug welded to the inside edge down here. I have to trim it back about 1/4 inch once I take this off. I stepped it down here just like this piece so that it would sit flush with the back side of this. I'm going to weld it along this V-notch that step down makes. I'm not sure if I'll solid weld it or just tack it, and then I can seam seal it, because the original weld here up top is just, they left it open. There's nothing that's really finished. There's a big trim piece comes down and covers this whole thing anyhow. So it'll probably get 1 inch tacks all the way along and then seam sealed. So I got this set up with Clecos. I'm going to take it off now. I'm going to trim the bottom 1/4 inch. I'm going to drill a series of holes across the bottom of this piece. Then I can put tech screws in that'll suck this whole thing tight and hold it in place while I get it all welded. The other thing I have to do is I have to put in a couple of drain holes so that any moisture that gets inside here can run out. The old one had a couple. There's one there. There's a big one in the center here. I don't know what it was for. And then another one at the front. So I'm just going to put a couple in, probably one here and one here. And I plan on just cutting a slit and then tapping this in. So once I get this trimmed off and I get it tech screwed together, I'll bring you back and show you the plan. Okay, we're making progress. I've got everything all dressed up here. I've got weld-through primer on the back side of this piece. I've got weld-through primer on the inside of the rocker panel itself. And then I have this piece. The inner part of the rocker is done as well. What I did for drains is I cut a 1.5 inch slit with my 3 inch zip disc, and then I clamped it in the vise, and I used a socket just to pound that in a curve, which will stop stuff from collecting in there, but it'll allow it to drain. So now I can get this stuff all up here, get it all tacked together, and then I can do the final weld on everything. Okay, I've got, I put my self-tapping screws in from the bottom side here to hold the bottom in place. I then used a C-clamp and my vice grips here, and I have the vice grips set at exactly the thickness that I need this to go to. So I sucked it in tight against the back part of the rocker, and then I used this to pull it down to the correct height, and I kept checking it with a vernier caliper just to make sure I had everything the same all the way along. And I've got that all tacked in there now. So what I can do is take it off. I can weld the bottom, pull those screws out one at a time, get them all tacked in. Then I can proceed to weld the top here, and I'll do a full weld along the top edge of that rocker, and then it's going to be a bit of a bitch to grind it out, but I'll take care of that as well. And then we can start working on this B-pillar support here. So, okay, we'll carry on, guys. Okay, we're making progress even if it's slow. So I've got this all tacked in. I got the top edge here fastened to the old top edge of the rocker, the inner rocker. I got it tack welded across the top, and I've got everything nice and flush on the front here. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to connect the B-pillar, get this all solid back here so that that'll stop the rocker itself from trying to twist or add more curve to it. Right now, every time I add heat, it wants to twist it under. So I'm going to, once I get this structure all in here, that should keep this together really nice. And then I'm going to try TIG welding this seam full length here. And this seam, I'm going to put a bunch more tacks in it, and then it'll just get seam sealed. So we'll carry on here, do some construction on this piece at the back on the B-pillar, and then we'll see how we do TIG welding this together. Okay, everyone, back again, another new day. Working on this B-pillar extension down to the rocker. So I'm doing it out of 16 gauge to match the B-pillar itself, and it's a pretty complicated piece, as I showed. This is the piece that I cut out. Get it orientated the right way. Like this, I guess. Everything that's on the bottom there is rusted out and gone. So I'm making the two new pieces. I'm having to do it out of two pieces because there's no way I can do all of these steps on my brake. So I built this outer piece. It's got a little bit of a curve on the bottom here. Then I took this piece and I broke it an inch this way, the proper depth this way, and then I broke this to the back half an inch. So I've got spot for a plug weld here, plug weld here. I'll also plug weld where the two clecos are. And right now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clean these two edges up, and I'm going to tack them from the back side. And then I can pull these two pieces out as one, and I'm going to weld them from the back side so that I don't end up with a bunch of weld in here that I can't get cleaned out. And then once I get that welded up, then I can weld this whole piece in, and we'll have lots of strength back into our B-pillar here. Okay, I've got the two pieces final fit together exactly where I want them. I put two tacks on. I'm going to pull this out now, and I'm going to weld it from the back side. I'm going to use pretty high heat, and that should give me really good penetration. That'll be the seam right along there. It might put a little warp in it, but I should be able to straighten that out. So I'm going to run a nice bead down there, and then we'll see how this piece fits. Okay, I've got this all prepped now. I decided I wanted to put a little bit of a brace behind where this seam is going to be. There's so much weight on these pillars because of no roof. This will add a little bit of strength to this butt joint that's here. So I plug welded a strap that I put a step down, and it will sit flush against the new piece I built. The new piece, I put weld through primer on the back side of it. This is the seam that I just welded. There's no point in dressing it up. I'm going to leave all the weld there for strength. Nobody will ever see it. And there's the front side. It's ready to go on. So I'll get this clecoed in place, get it all set up for welding, and we can get it welded in place. And then I just have a little brace. I'm going to put a triangle brace down in the corner here. I'm going to run it from up about here down, just to add a little bit more strength. It's another thing that they didn't do from the factory. So it's not very big, but it'll probably help quite a bit. Okay, there's the B-pillar repair done. I think it turned out really good. All the lines look right. I got this little piece added in at the top here. I just went up from here down. I broke the back edge of this about 1/4 of an inch just to give it a little bit extra strength so it can't be bent. I'll weld it on the back side once I get into the cab here. So from here now I can carry on. I'm going to weld this lower seam or upper seam on the rocker. Can dress that all up, and then I will start working on this quarter panel repair here. Get it done. Once that's done with the inner, this whole piece should stay where it's put. That's my plan, and I'm hoping it's going to work. So, and then we can go on and do the same thing to the other side. Okay, we're back at it again, Monday morning. It was a busy weekend. I didn't get anything done on the car. I went to a big car show up in Swift Current. Turned out pretty good, about 180 cars. So anyhow, I'm going to start working on this quarter repair. I just took a piece of 18 gauge, a little bit oversized. I'm going to, I marked out the curve here on the back end. I'm going to trim it so I've got about 3/4 of an inch to an inch that'll bend over. I'm going to use the bead roller with a round over and a skateboard wheel to put this curve in and the 90-degree bend, and then I've got to figure out a way to put this this contour in. It's got quite a contour shape to it, so we'll figure out how to do that together. Okay, I've got everything set up here in the bead roller. What I've got is one of a 3/8 bead on top and the skateboard wheel, polyurethane wheel on the bottom. And I'm just going to use this to break this in a nice curve. I'll just, I've got it started here. As you can see, once you've got your line where you want to do it, I'll just get it started. So you're running it through and putting up pressure on it at the same time, and that puts your curve 90 in it. Just keep running it through like that. Okay, now from here I'm going to have to make myself a 3/8 T-bar, because this is actual. I used a 3/8 bolt to check the curve, and I have to get this completely rounded over with 3/8. Okay, I took a piece of 3/8 steel rod. I believe it's part of a Dodge kickdown shift piece. I don't know, it's hardened 3/8, so it keeps its shape really good. I took just a curve out of it so that I had an area where I can transition, welded it to a piece of 1/4 inch plate that I can clamp in the vise. Now, then I took my piece of steel and just using a body hammer, I completed making my 3/8 radius on the piece, which worked out good. But then I had to get this, hopefully you can see it, this curve in the flare out on the 1/4. So what I did, I just held this on the steel rod, moving it along, and I used my nylon beaten hammer, and I just slowly worked this down until I got the contour in. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this over to the planishing hammer, and I'm going to smooth this all out. It's actually really close already. So once I get it cleaned up here and straightened out, I'll show you how it fits on the car here. Okay, we're back at it again here. I just temporarily clamped on this rear fender just so I could get my line here as to where this 1/4 panel piece has to go. And then at the front edge here, it's got this, there's a series of steps for where the weather stripping seals on the door, and there's no way that the new piece I'm making here, I can't break this little tiny lip and this one here. So what I've done is I took a piece of 18 gauge, I bent it 90, trimmed it back, and then I put it in the shrinker and I introduced the curve to it there. This will end up getting plug welded on here. And then I'm going to grind this edge of it back to get the height I want to match the upper part. And then I'll have to butt weld my 1/4 to this piece all the way down and then grind it to finish it off. So I have my 1/4 piece here. I have all the shape in it. Turned out pretty good. It matches up really well. What I'm going to have to do is get this fine-tuned and then cut the front edge of it here and figure out where I've got to break it at the bottom to tie in. And then before I can put any of it on, I have to build my inner piece. It'll come down, it'll get broke out, and then the two of them will get plug welded together on the bottom here. Now this piece comes back and then turns in and goes back here about 3 inches, so that in itself is going to be a bit of a complicated piece. So I'm just going to keep working away on this, get these pieces all figured out, and then as we put the jigsaw puzzle together, I'll bring you back. Okay, so I got my inner rocker done here. It's what I did was I slid it up behind the old piece, and then I tack welded it all along. I joined it into my rocker panel inside. Everything's got weld-through primer on the inside of it. And then I got the bottom edge broke exactly level with the bottom of the rocker here, but up the thickness of 18 gauge, so just under 50 thou. So next I've got the fender piece here, and I'll just get that positioned in here, and then I can show you. Okay, I've got the new 1/4 piece in position. The contour is lining up really good. It's going to need just a little bit of work in here once I start tacking it. I ran it through the English wheel with a really light pressure with the shortest radius or the smallest radius I had to get the curve. I don't know if you can see it from the front side. It's got the same curve as that 1/4. So now what I have to do is I have to break it on the bottom side. So we'll have to split it up here and then just break this edge where it's going to tie in with the inner rocker there. Okay, we're back at it again. I've got everything all welded up here, ready to go. I've got my new panel built. I've got weld-through primer on the inside. It was quite the panel to make. It's curved this way, the bottom's rolled over, and then that fancy curved wheel opening on the bottom here. So I'm just going to get it set up here. I've got some heavy 25-pound magnets here that work really well for holding these panels in place. Everything's fitting really good. Okay, so I'm just going to get this all tack welded in, and then I'm just going to slowly work on welding it in. I really don't want to warp it all to crap, so bring you back in a bit. Okay, we're back again. I got this panel all welded in across the top. Got a little bit of planishing left to do. Got a little bit of a high spot right here. There's a lot of waves in this whole panel all the way up. I think there's been a lot of damage done over the years. I got plug welds across the bottom, weld down the front, and now I got to do the same thing to the other side. So we'll go ahead with the other side. I still have to TIG weld the entire seam on that rocker from front to back, and some final grinding, seam sealing, and then this side will be done up to the rear fender. And then we've got all that other crap on the back yet to deal with. So that'll be the end of that. I'll just take you over here. So we're going to call it good for this video, and we'll get started on another one and carry on. A bunch more rust repair and banging out dents. So thanks for tuning in. Thanks for subscribing. We'll catch you on the next one.